Right, welcome everyone. We are really happy to have you here. We're really excited. My name is Mr. Josue, and I'm going to be hosting this first debate. Well, it's actually not the first one, but I'm going to be your host today on January 29, 2021. And this is a pretty special date because we're going to be listening to a very relevant topic that it's going to be presented by some of the students of Colegio McDonell and Colegio Palmore. So the question today is going to be, does authority abstract rights, especially among this pandemic? So we're going to have this debate, but before we do anything else, let me just present the authorities that are going to be here with us. And we are really happy to have Miss Berta Alvarado. She's the general principal of Colegio McDonell, and I believe she has some words for everyone that is here.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Colegio McDonell and Colegio Palmore. Nos sentimos muy afortunados de tenerlos esta mañana juntos a los estudiantes de tercer año de secundaria del Colegio Palmore y del Colegio McDonell. Un gran honor que podamos compartir nuevamente una actividad juntos. Siéntanse todos bienvenidos.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Miss Berta. Now we also have Miss Adriana. She is the academic coordinator of middle school and high school at Colegio McDonell. We also have Miss Enar, who is the English coordinator at Colegio McDonell. And we have Mr. Isaí Arenas, who is the headmaster of Instituciones Educativas Palmore. We also have Miss Lorena here with us. She's the academic principal of Instituciones Educativas Palmore, and Miss Marta, who is the principal of elementary education, and Miss Laura, who is the sub-principal from middle school at Colegio Palmore. We also have Miss Cynthia Renteria, who is the languages coordinator at Colegio Palmore. So we are really happy to have all these authorities. It makes me feel very nervous, by the way. But still, I know that our students are going to be performing a really awesome debate. Uh, just for you to know, we're going to have a group of 4 judges that are going to be checking what you're going to be doing. Just this is not for you to become more nervous than I know that you are. But this is for you to know that there's going to be someone just checking how good your arguments are. And they're just going to realize this is not a win or lose situation, just practice, language practicing exercise. So Miss Cynthia, Miss Enar, Miss Carla, and Mr. Carlos are going to be working as judges today, and they're going to be listening to your arguments, and they're going to deliberate after the debate, and they're going to tell us who had better arguments and who was able to present those arguments in a better way. All right. I hope that I am making myself clear. And after that, after this, I just want to say that we are very grateful with the teachers that have been working with our students. Miss Aurora, Miss Adriana Villalobos, Miss Carla Martinez, Miss Grecia Campos, Miss Lilian Sanchez, Miss Mariana Acevedo were the ones in charge of helping our students to develop those arguments and to help them research and organize and arrange those arguments so that they could be ready for this day. And I know for a fact that they have been practicing with them and that they have been trying to help them and also trying to calm them down because sometimes we get a little bit too nervous. But they have been really good and they have done a very good job. Lastly, I just want to present who are the teams. And I would like you just to wave your hand so that everybody can see who's going to be debating today, and they can get to know you. We're going to have two teams. Remember that we're going to be talking about how is it possible that authority abstract our rights during these pandemics or not. So we're going to have a pro team that it's going to be arranged, and it's going to be formed by Mr. Pablo Vargas from Colegio McDonell. Mr. Pablo, thank you. We also have Mr. Alexis Ramirez. Could you wave your hand, Mr. Alexis? Thank you. We also have Miss Paula Acosta. Mr. Jonathan Talamantes is also part of the pro team. Miss Valeria is also part of this team. And last but not least, we have Miss Melanie Flores. Welcome all the pro team, and we're going to have the con team. They're going to be trying to rebuke the arguments of the pro team. So Miss Daniela is going to be part of this team. Welcome, Miss Daniela. Miss Elena is also part of the team. Mr. Neftali, where are you? I see you now. Mr. Diego is going to be part of this team also. Welcome, Miss Andrea and Mr. David. Welcome. We just want to say, and we just want to remind you that me as a host, I'm going to be holding this timer, and I don't know if you can see it. Let me just highlight it. I'm going to be holding this timer here, and it's going to make a sound after 3 minutes for the ones that are going to be having the opening statements, and after 2 minutes for the ones that are going to rebuke those arguments. Yeah, so the first two participations are going to be of 3 minutes, and after that, each one of you is going to have 2 minutes to rebuke these arguments. Remember that you're going to have to listen what the other team is saying so that you can give your arguments and try to rebuke them, all right? You may also take notes so that you can know which points of the other argument you're going to try to rebuke. And well, you actually have a pretty cool advantage thanks to this pandemic, despite whatever you may think, because you're on your electronic devices. So in case that you need to research something, you just have to be very skillful and try to rebuke something over there, right? So just do it in your time. And how do you say if we start? All right. If you guys are ready, just give me your thumbs up. Mr. Jonathan, don't be so afraid. I know that you're going to do great. Just give me your thumbs up. And all right, I see most of the debaters are ready. So let me just prepare this. And wait, just give me a second. And let me close this because it's making too much noise. All right. So are we all ready? And we're going to give the time to Mr. Pablo, who's going to have the pro opening statement. Are we right? So, Mr. Pablo, I will tell you when you can start. Your 3 minutes are going to start. And then even if you're still speaking, I'm going to have to interrupt you and tell you that your time is over. All right? Okay, so you may start now.
Hello. In late 2019, a virus was originated in the city of Wuhan, China. Today, that virus is a global pandemic that threatens the lives of thousands of people all around the world, and that countless measures have been used to try and stop it. A lot of controversy has been shown regarding the virus and everything that surrounds it, just like the measures, for example. Me and my team will show you why these measures must be taken seriously and followed in the proper way. Probably the main measure that everyone seems to be wrapping their heads around is the quarantine, so famously called, because it's not an actual quarantine. That would be a bit more extreme, but let's don't get ahead of ourselves. This quarantine basically consists in isolation within people's houses and just leaving home when having an essential purpose to do so, like hygiene, health, food, etc. Another measure that we need to do in this pandemic are the masks that must be worn when we go outside. But a lot of people seem to not be happy with these measures and seem to disagree with them. And they ask, is this the right move to make? Well, it is, and we'll show you why. While some may argue that this is against their rights and it can't and shouldn't be done, they have to understand that with rights comes responsibility. Freedom isn't being able to do whatever you want whenever you want to do it. There are limits, there are priorities, and there are obligations. And it is our duty as humans and as citizens to do what is right to do. So, people need to ask themselves, what is more important? Parties, going outside, living your life, as some might even say, or saving and protecting the health of your families, of your friends, the state that you live in, your country, and even the whole world? There is an obvious answer to that question, and not just morally, but legally as well. And arguing against the fact of saving people's lives and protecting their health is just plain foolish and incredibly selfish. These measures must be taken, and people should agree to do so. And that is what my team will prove today. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Pablo, thank you for your argument. Miss Daniela, I'm going to give you the time to speak. Remember, you have 3 minutes. You may, well, start now.
Thank you. First of all, I want to introduce you to what are human rights. Every person has dignity and worth. One of the way that we recognize the fundamental value of each person is by recognizing and respecting their human rights. Human rights are a set of principles related to equality and justice. They recognize our freedom to make decisions about our lives and develop our potential as human beings. It's about living a life free from fear, harassment, or discrimination. Human rights norms also recognize that in the context of serious threats to public health and public emergency that endanger the life of a nation, restriction on some rights can be justified as long as they have a legal basis, are strictly necessary according to scientific evidence, and is not arbitrary or discriminatory in its application. Is of limited duration, respect human dignity, is subject to review, and is proportionate to achieve its objective. At the same time, careful attention to human rights, such as non-discrimination and principles of human rights, such as transparency and respect for human dignity. Governments are responsible for providing the information necessary for the protection and promotion of rights, including the right of health. By taking action against journalists and health workers, some governments have failed to fulfill their obligation to protect the right to freedom of expression. This recently limited effective communication about the onset of the disease and undermined trust in government actions. ONU experts warn of the devastating human cost of corruption, including human rights abuses if governments fail to protect healthcare supply chains, which are those that secure essential medicine and equipment against fraud and bribery. Personal protection in the fight against COVID-19. If medicine are diverted because a bribe is paid, innocent people could not have treatment and die. They comment in one of the key messages of the ONU Working Group on Business and Human Rights presented to the Human Rights Council. My team and I are going to show that we have rights and we have the way to make them right. And that's all for my part.
Okay, thank you, Miss Daniela. It was really, really close, a few seconds left. But this is pretty interesting, guys. Like we have a really good topic here. We have for one side some guys that are telling us that we should obey everything that our governments are trying to tell us because they're trying to protect us. But on the other hand, we have this team that is trying to tell us that despite these pandemics, we have human rights and governments should respect human dignity. So let's hear what the pro team has to say. Mr. Alexis, are you ready? You're going to have 2 minutes. Okay,
Yeah, thank you.
so you may start now.
So as we already know, COVID-19 is a dangerous disease. Probably it didn't affect us as young people, as adolescents, but it affects our older familiars as parents, grandparents, uncles. So what I'm trying to say is, we shouldn't be selfish and think a little bit on our other people. Because as Pablo already said, imagine going to a party, a friend invite you to a party. You have the decision to go or not going. If you go, you could contract this disease, and the the medical people says that okay, we'll start again. This this disease affects older people, and if you contract it, you're gonna spread it all over your familiars and your familiars to other people, and it's gonna continue like that. So we should think a little bit. And if we didn't go to that party, we could save a lot of people, and we could save our familiars too. As we already say, the consequence of not going to a party, and it is your decision to be or not be selfish and just not thinking your diversion and fun. And that's all for my part.
Thank you, Mr. Alexis. So now we have a position where you are put against this decision of going or not going to a party. And Mr. Alexis mentioned how selfish he thinks or his team thinks this decision could or could not be. Miss Elena, it's your turn. You're going to have 2 minutes to rebuke this argument. You may
Yes,
start.
thank you. Under international human rights law, governments have the obligation to protect rights of freedom of expression, seeking, receiving, and imparting information of any kind in any part of the world. At the beginning of the spreading, China's government withheld basic but important information of this virus, the severity of the virus itself, and unreported infections. COVID-19 should not be an excuse for human rights violation. Public health protocols have called to extreme measures that limit the freedom of mobility and public assembly. It's not only the cases of going to parties because we want to see our friends or families. It's also that some people do not have enough resources to not go outside. Like they have to be outside so they can have a job, so they can provide for their families and take care of them, so they can have food, so they can pay for their basic services like water, electricity, gas. Um, all governments have the obligation to ensure that this health crisis does not become a human right crisis. Combating COVID-19 requires that health facilities have adequate water, sanity, hygiene, and healthcare waste management. A report by the WHO and the UNICEF reported that an estimated 896 million people go to facilities that do not have the adequate water service or water service at all. And another 1.5 billion
I'm
people that,
sorry, Elena. You
okay,
may finish this argument, just this last sentence.
okay, that go to facilities that do not have the correct sanitation service.
All right, so thank you, Miss Elena. Now we have been put up with these both arguments. It's not about just going to parties. Maybe you actually have the need to go outside and work. And now we just listen to these facts that some people don't even have the access to water or stuff like that, you know. Now, what can you say, Paula? It's going to be your time, your turn. You're going to have also 2 minutes.
Well, first, talking about human rights, we have the health right for everyone. And this is a right that all the world have without exceptions. And at doing reality or fantasy to going out because we need it, sometimes people use is use it as an excuse for going out for no reason, and this puts in risk the health of other people and of the world. It complicates the situation that we have now. And maybe you need to go out to buy things or to do something like that. But with the technology that we have today, we can do all of that in our house, in the security of our house, without putting in risk the other people. The UN, the United Nations, put the design measures for each country so everyone will be safe. These measures are especially for the country that we have, and some countries have more measures, more strict, and they are doing better. So if we do the things that they ask us, we will have the liberty that we need earlier and in an easier way than if we go out just because we want or just because we need it in an excuse of going out because we don't want to go, we don't want to stay home. So I think that is a selfish way of thinking, to go out just because we need it when we're just going to parties or just with friends or like that, because we're putting in risk other lives that is not ours, even of our family or maybe of us too. We don't know if we have the virus. We don't know if we have it. We are going to have it. Everyone could have it. It's not something special for some people. It's for everyone, as the right of health, as the right of liberty. But for some rights, we need to do some things that can guarantee us that rights.
All right, thank you, Miss Paula. Now, we have, well, these arguments are pretty good now. But let's just hear the other, what the other team has to say, because it's not only about just going to parties or stuff like that. We just have been put like maybe against the wall. I don't know how the other team is feeling, but no pressure. I know you guys can do it. So let's see what Mr. Neftali has to say to us. Remember, you have 2 minutes.
Okay, first, Paula said one thing, that we have the right of the health, and that is all right. But the government violated that right in the pandemic because they stopped sending us medicines for diabetic people, people with cancer, people with VIH. Also, the government violate our right of the economy because they put a lot of pressure for little business to wear the mask. So the little business start to close and all the people were employed. So the state violated that two rights. Now, what the government are doing is unconstitutional, since the mandate to use a mask and the curfew never came from the president. Therefore, you're depriving my right to freedom. And the moment you give me a fine, it is unconstitutional because it was never a mandate from the president. Because only the president can do that decrease, and the ones that are doing that decrease are the governors. My second point, international treaties are superior than the Mexican constitution, and in those treaties, it was never agreed that the right of the people should be deprived in any case. So this mandate is superior than the Article 29 of the Constitution. So I would like to know what the opposite team will respond to knowing that the government violates our right to health and economy, And I also like to know with what argument you are going to defend the fact that in international treaties, there is never talk of depriving the right of the people, because it is unconstitutional, because only the president can do that decrease, and the cities are violating or rights, and that's all.
Okay, Mr. Neftali just gave us a great a great list of different arguments. Thank you, Mr. Neftali. I am really getting into this discussion, this debate, because it's pretty interesting how these guys have been researching the facts that maybe it's not just about being selfish. Maybe it is about how the government may or may not be um, abstracting our rights, you know, or violating any liberties that we have, or maybe we are overreacting. We don't know. Let's see what Mr. Jonathan has to say about this. You have 2 minutes, Mr. Jonathan.
Okay, yes, you can hear me? Yes, you can. Okay. First of all, I would like to say that it wasn't the purpose of the government or of the authorities to break the laws. This pandemic arrived like in 1 month, we changed all the things that we did completely. So that was the first thing. And the second thing, the corruption of the governments can make this situation, this pandemics worse, according to my partner, Daniela. But the corruption of the government gets its money from taxes and from the citizens. So what will happen if no citizens were left in the country of, yes, in the country where we live? So that's my point. And then it's beneficial in a way that that we as citizens are live to the authorities. So another thing is that, as my partner Pablo said, this quarantine could be worse. We couldn't go out in a way to any place because we could just go to work or to buy things. So it's the decision of the government just to implement some things, not that like extreme, so people don't go out. And another thing is that according to the Artículo 29 of the Constitution of the Estados Unidos Mexicanos, it says that the only person that can declare the state of emergency in this country is the president of Mexico. So if he basically declares this, it would be like he could change things so no one could go out and things like that. Another thing that I say is that persons don't have the fault of this. Well, persons, but different. The fake news, for example, have a little bit of fault according to this. Oh,
I'm sorry, Mr. Jonathan, your time is up, but you have also given some interesting arguments because maybe it's not just about having this quarantine and actually like you and some of your partners have mentioned, um, this is not so severe. You have just pointed this out. So what do you have to say, Mr. Diego? Remember, you have 2 minutes. Are you ready, Mr. Diego?
You talk here. You talk about restrictions that we have to obey. Now, these restrictions, I have some information that these restrictions must be necessary, in proportion, and not discriminatory, and they should go accompanied by classes that avoid abuse. Here, I'm going to present this topic. Here are 2 reasons of why parks are essential and must be open. Because physical activity is essential. Physical activity reduces the risk of getting sick with cardiovascular problems, arterial hypertension, colon cancer, and diabetes. 2, there is less probability of inhaling nose drops in open air activities. The COVID-19 virus is contagious from person to person between those who are near each other. Near 6 feet away, meaning somewhere the virus spouse through small respiratory drops that are liberated when talking, coughing, and breathing. In some situations, especially in closed areas with little air, that the virus that cause COVID-19 can be spread when a person is exposed to a small drops of substance staying in there during several minutes. Being in open air also offers benefits. It stimulates the mind state and it can help feel less tense, stressed, mass and depressed. And the light of the sun also can give you vitamin D to your body. After this, why are shopping malls open and not parks? They are not open door areas. They are dangerous and they are not necessary because they don't sell food supplies, and parks are in open air and help people to be healthy, do exercise, remove toxin when we sweat, and and the and the and and the export help control weight and obesity, and it makes the boss more stronger. That is my point. Here is a question. Can I finish?
Finish this just last sentence, please.
Here is a question. Does the authority think in our needs?
All right. Well, that's a really interesting question. Does authority think about our needs? Okay, thank you, Mr. Diego. Miss Valeria, you also have 2 minutes for your rebuttal participation. Are you ready?
Yes.
You may start.
Well, okay. So I don't know about you people, but I was not waiting for this pandemic, neither do the world. So we as a society and as a world, we have to adapt to our confinement in our homes. And we can see very good examples of these countries: Taiwan, New Zealand, Iceland, Singapore, and Vietnam. Seeing the information of these countries, we can revise a couple of factors that they have followed. The countries have used technology to trace suspected cases. They have maintained a stockpile of face masks. They all have a small population, which is not the case in our country, but it has worked for them. And they all have received aggressive testing, which meant that they have been taking measurements applied by the government, and the country has been doing very well. We can also see that a very important situation is that one of the world's most advanced economies, the USA, it's the worst country handling the pandemic. So we can appreciate that it doesn't depend on the level of economy or the restrictions that the government says, but it depends on ourselves and what actions do we take. So the question here for me is, why are we questioning our rights if we can respect our own lives and the lives of the people that we know by not taking the measurements?
All right. Is that your final argument? I believe it was, right? Okay. Well, that was a really interesting question. Like, why are we questioning this if we can actually, if we're not actually able to respect the others? Like, that's kind of mind-blowing. Okay. Now we're going to have Miss Andrea, and you also are going to have 2 minutes. We're heading to the final closing arguments. Miss Andrea is going to be the final argument of 2 minutes. And after that, we're going to get the closing arguments. All right, Miss Andrea, are you ready?
Yes. Well, I agree that authorities are obstructing our rights by forcing companies to close and depriving us to, well, depriving our opportunity to go and be with other people. But the responsibility is mainly ours to follow the prevention measures. But that doesn't imply that authorities take to the extreme of prohibiting work and coexistence. They have disregarded the supplies of health services,
but given the priority to less urgent things, like for example, the president is giving is doing like re-elections for the diputados uh, of his own party, and for his party to continue in the power. So he's doing like promotions of his party to continue, yes, in power. And I think that's really bad. And he's not like interested the in his society, because he exi- he says that we need to use the mask, but he really doesn't use it. Did you see that the president, he is when he presents himself in like things with other people, he is not using the mask, and I think he should really put the example to
Miss
us.
Andrea, your time is up. You have just one last sentence. Do you want to give a final sentence?
um, uh, yes, the an interesting fact is that people are infected even though they use a mask.
All right. Okay. Well, that's interesting. And we have reached this point of the debate where all of the teams have participated, both teams and their participants. But now we're going to hear the closing arguments. Before that, I would just like to say that I am really amazed and really happy by your arguments, because you have shown and you have proved that you made a good research, and some of you have been really really skillful by and meditate about how is it our responsibility, are we overreacting, do we really care about ourselves, and do we really care about the ones that surround us, are we being forced to do things that we don't want to do, are the measures too strict? Well, let's just hear what Miss Melanie has to say. She's going to have again 3 minutes for her closing argument. Are you ready, Miss Melanie?
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so we know that the COVID-19 pandemic is a challenge for the respect, the protection, and the guarantee of our human rights, not only in our country, also in the rest of the world. So, especially due to the structural problems that the region faces, such as lack of access to the service health, the poverty, gender, violence, injustice, and the inequality. Okay, we know that a lot of people consider that these measures are oppressing our liberties and our rights, but I think that it's a very selfish way of thinking because the people are just seeing for their rights. And another point, it's too important to be informed, but do not believe in everything. We all know that the politics and the security in our country are complicated, but the people are doing the best to keep the measures and reduce the infections. Also, the police and the public workers are capacitated to follow these measures and make the people to follow them. If we follow the measures, we will reduce the work for them, and the situation will be not so complicated. Okay, a point of the fake news. The fake news used to make people think that the government have the fault of the most things that happen. It's a common way that bad organizations used to make us mistrust, but the government wants to protect us always at any cost of the bad things. So to finish, I would like to say that to be aware that there is no measure that by itself stops or limits the transmission capacity of the virus, but the application of a set of measures and the commit participation of the entire population is too necessary to limit its spread. So my conclusion is to we need to work together both ways. Thank you.
All right, you still have 1 minute left. Is there anything you would like to add?
1 minute. Oh my God. Okay. Um, I don't think so. Let me.
It's okay if you
Well,
don't
I
want to
can
add
I
anything.
can add another measure that is taken in Mexico. It's called the
Okay.
supervision filter. The main objective of this supervision filter is to install a monitoring filter at the entrance of each site to guarantee that the people who enter the buildings do not represent a potential risk of contagion for the rest of the people in them. So the filter consists of placing a model at the entrance of each property in which an antibacterial gel is applied to the people who enter. In the event that it's possible, maybe a quick questionnaire about your health status should be applied.
All right. So now you have just given a good argument and also provided a good idea. Thank you, Miss Melanie. Mr. David is going to be your turn. Are you ready? Remember, you have 3 minutes. Mr. David, are you ready?
Yeah. Well, in conclusion, we could say that the authorities at one point they are obstructing our rights. Things that we should know are often hidden, but many times it is really not for a bad reason. Every human has the rights that must be respected, and we must give it all the support possible that is in terms of health. The OMS itself admit that the quarantine was a really bad idea as it didn't reduce the number of COVID-19 cases. This in turn causes a serious controversy about who is a real culprit about all this problem. Is the government for not knowing how to control this situation, or is the population um, for living out of of them houses and without the necessary protection and without worrying about other people only live in their houses like that, even they say think that the virus does not exist. And it is clear that many businesses went bankrupt. Thousands of people lost their works, and now the public transport is something complicated to get in, and people cannot meet at home with their family and friends. But even so, I really don't think it's all current problem in which it is impossible to supply 7 billion people with the necessary resources to cope with this problem. And it is much difficult to support all these resources to third world countries. Okay, and there has been a lot of debates about this virus and how the authorities resist us and all these controversies, and how the nations, the world, uh, restrict us certain information about, and also they restrict us to certain free areas, to the access to these areas, which may not cause great damage if they access it. There's controversies about the use of the mask has ended in public demonstration, with some of these demonstration has the necessary security measures, and others completely ignoring this situation. People have every right to express their displeased certain issue, as long as they are peaceful demonstration, where they began to use violence that's not correct. Finally, I want to say that the great problem of this current population is the misinformation. If only we were more informed about all the things, we will have to avoid as many problems as this current one.
All right, Mr. David. Thank you because you have made a very good final and closing statement. And I don't know about you guys, but I am really, really impressed. I believe that you have made a very, very good job. And I wish that this reflects on your teacher's grade. No, I'm just kidding. But I think that they are really proud. They are really proud. They should be. And I'm not even your English teacher, but I am also proud of you. So congratulations to you all. Now we're just going to have a few minutes. The judges are going to take 5 minutes to go and deliberate. They're going to talk about you. It's not going to be gossip, don't worry. They're just going to discuss the facts that you have stated. So let's just give them 5 minutes, and we're just going to watch a few videos. The rest of the audience is going to be here watching some videos, and let's just give them time to deliberate. All right. So let's just wait for them to tell us what's the decision. Thank you very much and congratulations again.
"1948 rings a bell? Hmm? Oh, yes, of course. It was in the last century, Grandma and Grandpa's generation. Legend has it that there were still dinosaurs hiding in caves up in the mountains. But that is something we're really not sure of at all. Back then, everyone was recovering from the Second World War and its 70 million dead, the most devastating conflict in human history. So in 1948, to make sure such atrocities would not happen again, the search for shared values began. Why? Have people unite around a strong symbol, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. What is less known is that it was adopted by the UN General Assembly and has become the most translated text on Earth. But what are human rights? The rights you are entitled to simply because you are a human being. In other words, everyone benefits from them from birth, without exception or distinction. The idea behind it is that these rights are like needs. They are absolutely necessary to live well. Without them, it would be the law of the jungle, and you'd risk being beheaded if your government didn't like your Facebook status. In the Declaration's 30 articles, there are the civil and political liberties, such as the right to life, the right to vote, freedom of expression, or the prohibition of slavery and torture. Rights are interdependent, indivisible, and interrelated. This means that if a right is not respected, a series of other rights won't be either. If you are homeless, you live in the streets, so you can't sleep. You get sick, you don't go to school, and won't find a job. Violation of the right to adequate housing triggers the violation of the right to rest, the right to education, the right to work, etc. These are economic, social, and cultural rights. Okay, so a great text was agreed upon, but who does what? Well, on paper, the state's mission is to take the necessary measures for the Declaration to be respected. But in reality, there are some very bad students. The Declaration is not a legislative text, it's an ideal. Its name says it all, it is a declaration. Therefore, it is not valid in a court of law. But most states have integrated human rights in their constitution, and therefore, they must guarantee them. You can defend human rights only if you know them. Everybody's role is to ensure they are respected. Collective conscience means that each and every person is responsible for everybody else's well-being. Therefore, we can all get involved, protest against injustices, and make the universal rights ideal succeed.
The COVID-19 pandemic is a public health emergency, but it is far more. It is an economic crisis, a social crisis, and a human crisis that is fast becoming a human rights crisis. The message is clear. People and their rights must be front and center. And in all we do, let's never forget, the threat is the virus, not people. We are all in this together. The virus threatens everyone. Human rights uplift everyone. By respecting human rights in this time of crisis, we will build more effective and inclusive solutions for the emergency of today and the recovery for tomorrow.
I know that you guys are probably impatient, and I seen some of you that are also stretching. So if you want, you can give it a stretch. You can stretch your arms and crack your neck, maybe. But let's just give it a, well, just be careful about that. Not too much. But let's just give the judges a bit more of time. I have been told that they are like deliberating still. So don't be desperate. Just be patient and let's just hope for their decision. All right.
Hi, Josue.
Oh, do you have it, mister?
We're ready.
You're ready. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So Mr. Carlos, who is also part of the languages team here at Colegio Palmore, he's going to be in charge of telling us. I feel just like you know, like when the judge asks the jury, do you have a final deliberation?
We have.
You have?
First of all, I want to congratulate every single one of you. We were kind of amazed. Kind of, no, we were really amazed about what you did, guys. It was excellent, and it's kind of a cliche when somebody says like this, but it was difficult. But at the end, we decided that because of the main goal and because of the consistency from the teams and because of the arguments, the team that is going to win is the con team, the team that is against the topic. So congratulations for every single one of you. Nevertheless, you did an amazing job. Congratulations to every single one of you. So let's go and give it a virtual applause.
Congratulations, guys. Remember, this is I don't want to discredit the work of the judges because I know it was hard for them and they take their job seriously, but this is merely symbolic. Just as Mr. Carlos said, you both did amazingly and we are really, really proud of you. Thank you to all the judges. Thank you for taking time of being here and deliberating, paying attention, and making this decision. Congratulations to both teams. A little bit more congratulations for the con team, but you guys are splendid. All right. Before we move on, I understand that Miss Lorena, the head, the general principal of Instituciones Educativas Palmore, she has some words for you. Is that right, Miss Lorena? Are you there? I don't know if she's here. I can't find her.
¿Ahora sí me escuchan?
Yes, we can.
Qué bonito trabajo, chicos. Felicidades. Excelente la participación que tuvieron. Se merecen un aplauso a señas. De verdad, felicidades. Es un gusto compartir actividades de manera conjunta con un colegio hermano, el Colegio McDonell. Gracias por su disposición, gracias a las maestras y por supuesto gracias a sus alumnos. Como Colegio Palmore nos sentimos muy orgullosos por el trabajo que han realizado nuestros alumnos y sus maestros. Gracias a los directivos y las coordinadoras de ambos colegios que hicieron posible este debate. Felicidades, Mr. Josué Peniche, quien fue nuestro moderador. Gracias. Queridos alumnos, esta actividad nos permite conocer y compartir con otros alumnos con el mismo objetivo. Estoy segura que ustedes mismos han puesto a prueba sus conocimientos el día de hoy y esto los estimulará a seguir preparándose. Los felicito y los animo a que no sea la única ocasión en la que podamos compartir entre nosotros, que podemos trabajar juntos, entre ustedes jóvenes que puedan tener el tiempo de conversar, de conocer otros chicos de otras escuelas, de otra ciudad. Esperemos que podamos elaborar otras actividades en donde nosotros podamos compartir de nuevo y convivir. Que tengan éxito este último semestre que les queda del año, que este ciclo lo terminen, como les dije, con mucho éxito. Les deseo un excelente día, que Dios los bendiga y muchas gracias. Gracias, profesor Josué.
You're welcome. We are, just like I have said along the session, we are really proud, we are really happy, and we're just about to finish with this debate. And I just want to finish by quoting Reverend Martin Luther King Jr., which he said, "The function of education is to teach one to think intensively and to think critically. Intelligence plus character. That is the goal of true education." And I think that you guys have achieved that. You have think, you have thought critically, you have thought intensively, and I believe that you're going to develop a good character, and you are going to practice a lot of what your intelligence has been shown us today. So congratulations to you all. Thank you to all of the ones that are present here. Thank you again to all of the authorities that have taken the time of being here. We are really, really happy about this activity, and we are really, really proud about being able to share this with the students between Colegio McDonell and Colegio Palmore. Thank you to all of you, and may God bless you all.